is an instructional video intended to help you set up your Mr. Howle animatronic from Spirit Halloween. First, take all the parts out of the box. Your parts should include the head, the shirt, 2 extendable piping pieces, a hip loop with the leg shaping, a large round hip loop, the shoulder frame, the metal base, an adapter, 2 larger bent leg poles, the 2 feet, 2 straight leg poles, 2 smaller bent leg poles that also have fork connection points, the 2 arm poles with extendable piping, the 2 hands, the center frame with control box, the pants, and finally a smaller hip loop with connection pieces for the waistband. Begin by placing the metal base down in the position that you see here, so that the larger flat metal piece is in the front bottom right, and then your smaller flat metal piece is in the back left of the base. Now take your 2 straight leg poles and attach those into the connection points in the corners of the base using the locking pins. Locate the foot with the sticker label that says right and slide that into Mr. Howle's right leg pole. Now note that all of these sticker labels in this build are based on Mr. Howle's point of view, and Mr. Howle is going to be facing the front of the base. Then go ahead and take the left foot and slide that onto the other pole. Now you can go ahead and locate the larger bent metal pole that says right and slide that in to the top of the right leg pole. Then take the larger bent metal pole that says left and slide that into the left leg pole. Now you'll take the smaller right metal pole that has the little connection fork on it and top that off on your right leg. And then you can take the left leg pole with the little connection fork on it and top off your left leg. Each of the extendable plastic tubes are going to attach into the top of the leg poles using the fork connection that you will find on them. And then you can go ahead and extend those tubes all the way down until they cover the top of the ankles to give Mr. Howle a nice leg shape. Once the tubes are finally extended, you can go ahead and slide your pants over top of the legs. It doesn't matter which direction they are facing, just slide each of the pant legs all the way down to the bottom before opening the waistband up on top. Then you can take your control box with the center frame, and before you attach it on, you want to slide the smaller hip loop with all of the hooks on it into the bottom of that frame. And once that is nicely secured in, you can attach the center frame with that hip loop onto the top of each of your leg poles. Now grab the hip loop with the 2 hump shapes on it and slide that over top of your center frame. Now those 2 hump shapes are actually going to be facing Mr. Howle's front, and this one is going to connect more towards the bottom. It's actually going to connect right up towards the very top of your 2 leg poles. Now you can take the final hip loop and slide that over the center frame, but you must ensure that the larger section of the hip loop is facing the back while the smaller section is facing the front. This one is going to connect into some housings on either side of the center frame, and it's going to be at the top of all of your hip loops. But it is critical that you ensure that there is space between the hip loop and this moving piece. Please note that if you do this step incorrectly, it can restrict Mr. Howle's movement and cause severe damage to the product. Now you can slide the waistband on up to the smallest hip loop that's in the center, and then the waistband is actually going to rest around all of those hooks on that hip loop. Now go ahead and insert the shoulder frame into the housings on the very top of the center frame before then going and sliding the shirt piece over top of all of that. And you'll want to make sure that the buttons on the shirt are facing the front. You can now take your right arm pole, meaning the one that's facing the front when properly connected to the shoulder, and extend out the plastic tube on that before sliding it through the sleeve and attaching it to that right shoulder connection point. It is a fork connection. And then obviously you can grab the other arm and do the exact same thing, extending out your tube before sliding up the sleeve and connecting it on in. Now you can go ahead and attach each of your hands to the fork connection points at Mr. Howle's wrists, and note that they should be facing in the direction so that the palms are facing inward. Then you can go ahead and pull the plastic tubing up around the wrist so it sits tightly on there before sliding your sleeve up and connecting the sleeve to the hand using the corresponding Velcro strip. You can now go ahead and attach Mr. Howle's head to the fork points that are in the neck area. You may need a ladder to properly attach the head. It has to go through 3 different levels of fork connections. And then you can go ahead and take the wires coming from the head and connect those to the wires coming from the control box. There should be a white wire and a black wire. Now you can do up the Velcro strips on the back of the clothing. Now you can lift up the front of the shirt and locate the IR sensor wire and connect that into the bottom of the shirt, bottom of the inside of the shirt, using the corresponding Velcro strips. Now you can lift up the back of the shirt and plug the adapter into the control box. Mr. Howle's control box comes with a switch that can be in sensor mode, where he will go based on the IR sensor, Try-Me mode, where he will go based on the Try-Me's you have plugged in, and the on position, where he will actually go continuously. There's a volume control knob that can go up and down, as well as a jack for your Try-Me's and step pads, and lastly a jack for an external speaker if you prefer to use an external speaker. You can go ahead and plug the adapter into an outlet, and Mr. Howle should retract into his starting position, and that completes your setup of Mr. Howle.